self-controlled, if you're excessive in anything, that would indicate a lack of self-control. Right? Just take excessive in a context on its own, that would show a lack of self-control. So not an excessive drinker, so cannot be controlled.
When they drink, they have bad language too.
That often it comes with that, yes, for sure.
They have no patience.
Poor decision making. Let's see here. And not always sensible as well. So we probably add it together with self-controlled and a lack of being sensible. Because again, what does alcohol do? Alcohol helps it moves your brain from a state of clarity to a state of what's opposite clarity? Guess. Yeah, like fogginess. It does. You don't. Confusion often.
It removes inhibitions.
There we go. It removes inhibitions. It removes your good sense. And probably getting drunk probably shows that you don't have good sense to begin with. So add in alcohol to that mix, and it just gets all the worse, right? So obviously, for this, why does this matter? Because you can't have a drunk shepherd, like you said, Galen. If one of the shepherds of the local church is known as the town drunk, I mean, come on. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's so non-commonsensical.
Today, one of the ladies at lunch, she said a certain church asked her to sing for them. She sang. So she had practiced this Christian gospel music for 3 weeks. She got there, and the church members were drinking wine and yelling and dancing, and she says, I turned to Rocky Top. And just seeing that influence there, it really got her, in the church.
Sounds to me like they heard she probably wasn't very good, so they had to prepare themselves for it. I'm just kidding. I kid. I shouldn't joke about that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't joke about that. I shouldn't joke.
That influence just
It's
blew her mind.
yeah. Again, what is our mind filled with? What are our hearts filled with? Is it with something that causes us to not think clearly, or is it something like the Spirit which enlightens us to think the way we ought to? That to me, Ephesians 5 is just a great text to show that what influences us must be that which leads us to greater thinking, to more clear perception of reality, not that which inhibits that. Yes, sir.
If I understand this right, now if I'm not correct, somebody can correct me. When you're drinking, and what makes it make you drunk, each time you drink, it deadens your brain just a little bit. And when you get drunk, your brain is so dead, you can't think. You ain't got no thinking power whatsoever.
I am not a medical professional, so I cannot tell you exactly what the effects of alcohol on the brain is, but I will just say yes. I will go with that. Yeah, I mean, it is a mind-altering substance, and it causes the mind to not be clear. That's the issue of it. Yeah, like there are other drugs as well that could definitely fall into that category.
A happy drunk and a mean drunk. I've been exposed to them before.
Yeah.
Me too.
They're not good.
No. Go ahead.
Well, one of the other issues with this is if the elder sees no problem with drinking, then he's not going to address that problem in any of the members either, because he doesn't see it as a big problem.
Yeah, if anything in that nature, and normally an unwillingness to enforce something is probably maybe done honestly to not be a hypocrite, but then also might be done sneakily so that, I never told you couldn't, so you can't tell me I can't either. A little sneaky, a little shady.
Alcohol and drugs get expensive, and I think there are
Yeah.
better ways to spend your money.
Let me tell you, I I don't understand, having gone 3 years at a major university in the United States of America, I don't understand how these classmates of mine afforded what they did on a weekly basis. Like, I was making enough money to get by, working my job and with my parents' help, but I don't know where they got the money for all of this that they drank away. It's crazy. Blew my mind. Never understood that one. All right, anything else right here? All right, let's see where we are here. Okay, let's duplicate this one. All right, what's the next one we'll talk about?
Not a bully.
Not a bully. Not a bully. Let's see here. All right, yes. That's what I have next in line as well. Actually, do I? I do. I skipped one. Were we talking about that? I think we already talked about that one. Lindsay? I think we did. Let's go back up. Yeah, there we go. Right up there on the previous one. We already talked about that one. Not saying you weren't paying attention, but I'm also not saying you were paying attention. I'm not going to confirm nor deny your attention paid on that day. And what's the next one? If we have already done that, which we did, we kind of we did go a little out of order. I think somebody just threw that one out of order, which is okay. They set you up to look silly, but we love everybody anyways, right? Oh, the wrong one. All right, what's the next one then? That's a good way to ask that question. Look at that, Lindsay, helping your fellow classmates out. We have not, according to mine, I have not seen us doing not greedy yet. So let's throw that up there, not greedy. Do you want me to go back, Lindsay, so you look at that one? Okay. These are posted online as well. I'm caught up on our classes. So if there's anything that you missed on the slides, after we get done with class, I'll make a copy of the slides. I'll put them on the website so you can go back and look at them in case you missed anything, all right? All right, so not greedy. What does it mean to be not greedy?
Well, in 1 Peter 5, it talks about,
Yes, great.
not for filthy gain or shameful gain. You're not doing it for the money.
Now, why is that necessary to discuss about with shepherds?
Because shepherds can be supported.
That's right. Yeah, remember we talked about that. We talked about one of these texts. Going back to, it's here in 1 Timothy 5 or 6, talks about shepherds who are worthy of double honor because they dedicate their lives to preaching and teaching. Those are shepherds who are worthy of being supported by the local church to do the work that they're doing. So the idea here then is you don't do this work simply to gain monetarily. You don't do that. That would be the idea here. So not doing work just for the money. But let's expand it outside the context of the church. You just don't need greedy shepherds to begin with, right? Because what is greed a manifestation of? Selfishness, okay? That word gets me. Is it covetousness or covetousness? Covetousness. Okay, I'm going to go. I'll trust you on that one. But get down to the root of it, though. What is it? What is being greedy?
I'd say it's being worldly.
Worldly, yes.
Selfish.
Yes.
It could be greedy of someone having a talent.
It could. We talked about that on Sunday, right? Being jealous of enemies. It's a love of money. That's what I'm getting at. It's a love of money. At the root of it all, it is a love of money. Now, yes, that word. Yes, that word. So it cannot be somebody who loves money and is controlled by the pursuit of it. Because somebody who loves money, all right, remember, I did this lesson months ago. Remember, our relationship with money should be that we see money as a what? Yes, as a tool. Money's a tool. Money helps us to do things. But the converse of that is we cannot, we use money as something we control to accomplish something, like as a means to an end. But we cannot allow money to do what to us? control us. We must control money. The money we have, we must control and do it well. Use it wisely. Do the best we can with it. But we cannot allow it to control us. Because whenever it controls us, whenever there is a love of money that takes root in our hearts, what will we not do for the money? There's probably about very little we won't do for the money if our hearts are addicted to having more and more and more, and there's never a level of contentment that we have. So there's the two angles of it then. From within the church setting, you don't do the work, just get paid. From the other perspective, it's you cannot have a life that is dictated by money, that is dictated by your pursuit of it to the degree that you do anything and everything in order to get more. Because remember, anything and everything includes anything and everything, which includes even bad stuff, even stuff that would be wrong morally to do.
Jesus said you can't love both.
Yes. Yep.
And money.
Cannot love God and money. You can't do it. There can only be one master in our lives. And as Sarah said, it really boils down to it's either going to be God or the world. Because the world is run by what? It's all about the Benjamins, ain't it? All about the Benjamins. That can't be so for us. We must be a people who recognize money as a means to an end, as a tool, as something that we control and that we use to do good, but we cannot allow it to control us and to distort our minds to do things that we know we ought not do, either with the money or in the pursuit of money. Now, why does that matter? Why does that matter for the shepherd? Like Craig said, if a shepherd is only doing the work in order to be supported for that work, then what's that work probably going to look like? What are some ramifications of that mentality?
Consider his job only when he's here in the building, and that's it. When I'm
Clock in, clock out, right?
clocked out.
Clock in, clock out. Might have a clock in, clock out mentality. What else? What other things what other problems might that cause? Some of these issues can even be the same for preaching. You might not do certain things, or you might do certain things in order to maintain that money. You know, you got that person within the church that's a real big contributor to the work. Gotta make sure I keep that person happy. Don't want to do anything that might upset that person, or else that check's going to get smaller and smaller. We can't have that. That's another thing. We cannot have that mindset in doing the work, again, either of preaching or in serving as a shepherd. Anything else you want to add to not being greedy?
Just, I'm sorry, I was going to say,
No, go ahead.
you just do just enough.
Yep.
You don't really have to zeal for the work.
Yes. I don't want to say that. Loves money, control has a, okay, there we go. Zeal for money and not the work. You like that?
I don't know.
Has a zeal for money and not the work.
Think about all these negatives.
Not doing just for the money. Loves. I guess I did count a couple of those in there, didn't I? Read carefully.
That is okay.
Lindsay, double check your work. Write that down right. All right, let's do one more. Let's do one more to close up for tonight. Anything else anyone wants to add to this? Oh, what about from another perspective, from the community perspective? If people know a shepherd that's greedy, that a good look for the church? No. Where do a lot of greedy people end up?
In jail.
Jail. That's right. Bernie Madoff. In jail. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I was kind of working at that. Like sometimes a greedy person will use his status
Ooh.
as leverage.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about a situation where a preacher got into the investment business on the side.
Ah.
And because he was a preacher, people had confidence,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore he invested their money. It was lost.
Yeah.
He managed to cover it by getting other people's money put into it until it all, of course, it was, eventually ran out.
Yeah.
Now he's in doing jail time for it. And so using your status, a greedy person uses whatever means he can in order to accomplish his end.
And who better to trust with your money than a shepherd? They're supposed to care for you, right?
Exactly.
supposed to have your best the best results in mind for you. So yeah, absolutely. Again, and that right there, that is pure deception, and that is a manipulation of other people. Because I'm in this position, they can trust me, right? So I can manipulate them in order to achieve a positive for myself. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. Good.
Talk about bullies tonight.
We already did that.
Oh, we did?
Oh, Dave!
It went by so fast.
Dave! Hey, you know what? That's even worse. That's even worse. That's even worse. We're talking about the sponsor right now.
Make it more colorful.
Dave, you need to tell us something about bullies? I'm just kidding. Dave, I want to go back here just for you. We'll just finish on this right here. Here you go. Here's a bully. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. I don't know. Oh no. Oh no, we're good. All right, this keyboard is not your normal keyboard. The buttons are not the same. It doesn't go. So all right. So a lot of people, because they're greedy, would become bullies in that way.
Well, the thing about-
And disconnect it right there.
The thing about bullies is that from a psychological
Let's write this
standpoint,
down.
they really are insecure people behind them.
Yeah.
And it's a front they put up to cover insecurities.
Right.
Which means if a person doesn't have real self-confidence, he doesn't need to be in a leadership position.
Yeah, that is an interesting point, isn't it? That's an interesting point about having self-confidence. Because talk about this a little bit someday. That, like in preaching, there is almost an inherent degree of ego you have to do the work of preaching. But at the same time, you cannot have an ego. Does that make sense? So, in the same way, what you're talking about, there has to be a self-confidence that a shepherd has to know that what he's doing is good work. But we're supposed to also be very what in leadership? Humble, right? So there's that fine line to walk with those two seemingly competing and contradictory traits that leaders must have.
When I think of self-confidence, I think of a person who's packing the goods.
Okay?
So a leader that someone comes to him with a problem, he has the capability and knows he has the capability of handling the problem. Or he knows if he doesn't, he's moving to someone who does. And so I think that's the idea of self-confidence. It's not a matter of an ego or flaunting oneself. It's simply a matter that if it comes up, I know how to do it.
And with that, there must be this real, very concerted effort to make sure it does not go from self-confidence to conceit. Or I think there's actually one of these that we talked about that would go along with that. Arrogance, right? Arrogance. So it's not that I'm saying that I have ever assumed one of the answers and whatever I tell you is absolute truth and you can't argue with me, and if you disagree then you're wrong. It's, I believe this is the correct answer. I believe this is the right way to handle this. Let's talk through it and let's work through it. Or, like you said, some of the best things is, I don't have an answer, but I can tell you somebody who does. That's one of my favorite things to do. People ask me questions, I have no idea what the answer to that is, but I know somebody who does. Pass them on and let them talk to people smarter than I. That's a great tool in your tool bag of how to help people. It's not always that you're going to be one to do it, but you can point them to somebody else who does. Good. Close this out, Craig.
Just a phrase that used to pass around at work. If you're the smartest person in the room,
Yeah.
you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
I like that.
That reminds me of people talking about, I want to find the perfect church. It's like, oh, well, go ahead. And as soon as you find it, you're going to mess it up. Because you're not a perfect person. Yeah, that's great. All right, guys, so we'll pick up here. We've knocked off a good bit tonight. Hospitable, not excess drinker, not greedy. Let us pick up next week. We're going to start with not hot-tempered. Not hot-tempered next week. Thank you very much.
Potato.
an excuse. There's a reason.
This is right, this is my old keyboard.
Did he just say, let's stand and sing? Is that what he said? Let's stand and sing?
In Luke chapter 9, we have Luke's accounts, his well-researched and well-investigated accounts of the transfiguration of Jesus. Luke 9, verse 28, about 8 days after this conversation, Luke 9:28, he took along Peter, John, and James and went up on the mountain to pray. As he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly, two men were talking with him, Moses and Elijah. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his departure, which he was about to accomplish in Jerusalem. The Greek word that is translated in that text, departure, is actually the word exodos, which makes it extremely curious, coincidental, that Jesus is speaking about his upcoming exodus from Jerusalem with Elijah and Moses. It's very interesting for Jesus to be talking about his exodus from this life with Moses and Elijah. As we're reading through Exodus right now in our daily Bible reading, we just started yesterday. So if you are, we just started today, actually. Today. We just started today. We just read Exodus 1 today. So if you would like to jump in and start reading along with us in Exodus, please feel free to do so. But in Exodus chapter 2, that we're going to read tomorrow, we read about, chapter 3, we read it, the Lord says in Exodus 3, verse 7, I have observed the misery of my people in Egypt, and have heard them crying out because of their oppressors. I know about their sufferings, and I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians, and to bring them from the land of a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. So God hears the cries of his people. He hears their distress. He hears of the difficult labor that they are experiencing. He hears their groanings, and he wants to act upon that. He wants to deliver his people from these groanings. And he says in the text that I have come down to rescue them. But last time I read through Exodus, it wasn't God walking before the Israelites, literally, who did that, was it? No, it was Moses. Moses was going to be his tool in order to accomplish the Exodus, in order to bring about this deliverance from the Egyptians for his people. Now, why Moses? Why Moses? I mean, it's God's sovereignty to decide who's going to be this, but just reading in the text, we recognize very early on that Moses was someone who showed good leadership characteristics. And he really showed a mentality of someone who would do really well at rescuing people. One of the times there in Exodus chapter 2, I'm going to work backwards in the text. First one we see him rescuing the daughters of Jethro from shepherds who were going to run them off from the well. They had come to get water for their father's flocks, and he goes and runs off the mean shepherds who were picking on them. These women, they don't need to be here. We need to be here, and so on and so forth. So he runs them away. Then secondly, in that story, we see where he stands between his fellow Jews who are fighting amongst themselves and tries to tell them, hey, you don't need to be fighting amongst one another. You need to be at peace. You need to show brotherly love. Now, the whole reason he's out in Midian rescuing Jethro's daughters because they knew that the first thing we see within the text that shows this kind of rescuing type of mindset that Moses has is that he struck down and killed an Egyptian for harming and mistreating one of his Jewish brothers. Moses, in 3 instances in Exodus chapter 2, shows that he has the mentality of a rescuer. He has the mentality of a deliverer. And yet, Moses is not perfect in that, is he? No, he's not. We see all throughout the Exodus story that he struggles. There were times whenever he became very frustrated with the Jews and their constant rebelling against God, and their whining and complaining. There were instances of disobedience. The disobedience of striking the rock that kept him from entering into the promised land. So that great Exodus that took place in the Old Testament story that we know as Exodus in that writing, it is but a foreshadowing of the greater Exodus that Jesus himself is going to lead. Because he is going to lead the people of the earth, those who put their faith in him as Lord and submit themselves to Yahweh. He would lead them out of the wilderness of sin and out of the captivity and the punishment that sin brings about. But he wouldn't do that through striking down the Egyptian. But he would do that through giving up of himself. Jesus shows him to be the ultimate deliverer, the ultimate one who has a passion and a zeal for his God and for the creation of his God by giving himself for the sins of others. In coming and leading this Exodus, he shows himself as being the greater Moses. He shows himself as being the perfect deliverer. So the question for us tonight then is, who are we going to be? Are we going to be like the Israelites who grumble and rebel and disobey Moses and ultimately the God who is leading the people? Or will we learn from even their mistakes and submit ourselves to Jesus as the great deliverer, as the greater Moses, and get to experience the wonderful Exodus that he is leading out of captivity of sin? Because here's the thing, those who are living in this world, who are living in sin, they groan. And we still, living in a world where sin has such an impact upon us, we groan, don't we? And we are crying out to God. We cry out to him for help. Even today, while being a part of this Exodus, we still cry out to him because we're still not there yet, are we? We're still not to the promised land yet. We're still not to eternity with God. And that's what we're looking forward to. We're looking forward to that. And let's look forward to that. Let's look forward to eternal glory. Let's not look back to Egypt. Let's not fall and make the same mistakes they did. Let's stay committed to our God. Be thankful for the part that Jesus has played, the ultimate part, the central part that he has played in our salvation and leading us in this Exodus. And let us remain faithful and follow him every step of the way. If you need to join that Exodus this evening, if you need to leave the captivity of sin, if you are tired of that, tired of being dominated by the flesh and the desires, and you look to be freed of that, then know that Jesus is leading this Exodus out of that world and out of this world, and he's ready to lead you as well. Would you come to him in faith, repenting of that sin, being willing to be baptized in the water behind me for the forgiveness of your sins? The opportunity is here for you. Or maybe you've been one of those Israelites that's been grumbling. Maybe you've been desiring that manna, that food that you used to have in Egypt, the satisfaction, the pleasure that you used to get from sin. I encourage you to correct that mindset, because the world, Egypt, has nothing for you. Everything that is good lies ahead. Stay the course and persevere with Jesus as your Lord. If we can help you anyway tonight, let's all stand as we sing together.
You are beautiful beyond description. Too marvelous for words. Too wonderful for comprehension. Like nothing ever seen or heard. Who can grasp your infinite wisdom? Who can fathom the depths of your love? You are beautiful beyond let's be making our plans to make sure we're back here on Sunday morning, 10 a.m. for our Bible studies, and we'll be worshiping together at 11 a.m. We'll be continuing in our sermon on Sunday morning, continuing our study through the Gospel of Mark. So very much looking forward to seeing everybody there. Please continue to be praying for those who Jim mentioned for us earlier. I think Caden has the closing prayer. He'll do that for us, and we'll be dismissed.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to gather here this Wednesday night to study more of your word and sing songs to your name, Lord. Lord, please help us to take what we heard tonight and apply it to our lives and help us be better Christians and be a shining light to other people out in the community, Lord. Lord, if it be your will, please allow us to be here the next appointed time and help us through all many things, Lord. Please give us our sins. We'll never pray. Amen.